They said it was impossible. They said it could never be done. Finally, Unbanlist. If you logged into Duel Links today, you probably saw the limited list update announcement, and we're expecting some hits to TG, Blue Eye, Sky Strikers, or Undead, but instead you see that not only are none of these decks hit, but that there were no hits at all, only unlimits. Me personally, I agree with this choice by Konami, since this format is really balanced and doesn't really need any decks to be nerfed, but it can't hurt to buff other decks. The decks that got buffed are Burning Abyss, Altergeist, Starry Nights, Tachyons, Digital Bugs, DDs, and Shaddolls. I'm going to show off some deck lists for how I think these decks are going to be looking moving forward. First of all, maybe the most exciting unlimit is Turguide. It being limited to 3 meant that you had to have a split between itself and Beatrice, with Beatrice being limited to 3 for reasons outside of the sins of Burning Abyss. It really made no sense for Burning Abyss to suffer, so finally, Turguide is unlimited, and this deck can play 3 copies of the best starter in the deck. You can normal summon her and summon any Burning Abyss from the deck, and since they'll be negated, they won't be destroyed. Or you could summon Fiendish Rhino Warrior from the deck so that when it's sent to the grave, you can send whatever Burning Abyss you want as a guaranteed send. Rhino isn't even that bad to open, because if you normal summon it, then summon another Burning Abyss next to it, it won't blow up because of the Rhino's protection effect. Since you'll only need to play 2 Beatrice and no other limited 3 cards, you can actually play 1 copy of Skill Prisoner again to send with Beatrice to easily prevent a targeting effect, making it harder for the opponent to deal with you. There are a lot of ways to build Burning Abyss. There's a back row version of the deck that likes to take advantage of the graveyard effects of the Burning Abyss monsters by using traps to put them into the grave during the opponent's turn. There's a version that plays almost entirely monsters and focuses on out-resourcing the opponent over the course of the duel. And there's a Chaos version that takes advantage of Dante's Mill to let you go aggressive with Chaos monsters. Regardless, after this nerf, all Burning Abyss decks should be having the core of 3 Turguide, 1 Fiendish Rhino Warrior, 3 Skarm, 3 Seer, 2 Farfa, 1 Libich, 2 Dante, 2 Beatrice, and 1 Virgil for Beatrice to float into. The rest is going to be based on your personal playstyle, but for me, these are how I would play the 3 different versions of the deck. Here's my trap control version of Burning Abyss, keeping the engine to a minimum and using Dynamiscus and Needle Sealing as ways that both interrupt the opponent, but also put your Burning Abyss monsters in grave to get their effects off, as well as Fiend Griefing, which is great because it interrupts the opponent's grave while also letting you send a Fiend. If you send Farfa with this, it's almost as if you're using Ice Dragon's Prison, since you're getting rid of a card from grave and from their field. Here's my monster heavy grind version of the deck. It can also take advantage of the negate of Alec as another way to interrupt the opponent alongside Farfa, and it has Barbar and Rubik, since the damage Barbar can do can be relevant in a simplified game state, and Rubik being a tuner can also help us go into Virgil. We usually aren't trying to go into Virgil, but having the option there is nice. Kiteroid and Galaxy Cyclone are here to send off Beatrice as well, or to potentially mill by Dante. White Princess is here to help us stay alive, and Ghost Mourner is nice since it's a good hand trap against some of the decks this format, and it's not as easy to read as Veiler. And it's a level 3 tuner you can normal summon next to a negated level 3 if need be, if you need to go into Dante or Virgil in a grind game. A version like this can take more advantage of Fiendish Rhino Warrior too, since you are more likely to have more Burning Abyss monsters in your hand, and being a bigger deck, your aren't as likely to clog on this and Turguide in the same hand. This Chaos version only plays 1 Beatrice and doesn't play Skill Prisoner, so that you can play 2 Levianeer, and you can search for them with Melody of the Awakening Dragon. We also play a total of 6 light hand traps, White Princess and Veiler, all just so that Levianeer can get the light and dark effect to break the opponent's board. If Levianeer stays on board though, it might conflict with our other Burning Abyss monsters, so we generally summon this after we've already gotten our Xyz out, and if we can get 2 off, we can use 2 Levianeer to go into a rank 8 to help go for game, Dingirsu for more board breaking, and Zombie Stein if we just need lethal damage. Altergeist came to the game with Meliseek limited to 3, and since Meliseek is the best starter in the deck, there wasn't really a good reason to run less than 3, and because of this, the deck's not been able to take advantage of the limit 3 traps like Crackdown, IDP, and Compulse. The thing is, even if Altergeist were allowed to play Crackdown or IDP, they wouldn't want to, because their main monster zones and back row zones are so important for their game plan that having a back row slot and monster slot clogged up by Crackdown would make things super awkward for us, and a lot of the time IDP isn't even going to be activatable when we want it to be, because we will often have our main monster zones used up anyway. So if this deck is going to use any limit 3 back row, I think it would be Compulse Compulse or Lost Wind. I personally prefer Compulse since it is removal, and the question would then be, which 2 back row would you prioritize? Up until this point, Canadia and Warding Point have been the best back row to use, Warding Point for its higher power, Canadia for its versatility, and both for the fact that it's easy to use them pretty much whenever you want. I think an argument could be made to cut either of these in favor of Compulse. Me personally though, I feel like we can cut Canadia for Compulse since Warning Point is still more powerful overall, and that power can be necessary against certain matchups, and Compulse is actually even easier to activate than Canadia, on top of the fact that it helps you break the opponent's field without needing to use Silkadist. Whereas previously we might need to flip something down with Canadia to trigger Multi-Faker and summon Silk, now we can outright remove a monster to trigger Multi-Faker and summon Silk, so that Silk's removal can be better spent. Compulse being able to bounce your own monsters might also be helpful in a grind game too, like if you are beating the opponent down with Meliseek turn by turn and they Valor you, you could Compulse it and normal summon it again so that it can attack without being negated. Other than that, the deck list doesn't really need to change that much, but if you feel that it would be better to play Compulse alongside Canadia and cut Warning Point, I would understand that too, sacrificing some power for a higher chance at triggering Multi-Faker whenever you want. Some time ago, Starry Nights got an Omni Negate trap in the cards trader that required you to bounce your Starry Dragon to hand to activate it. It being limited to 1 and being that powerful, of course you'd want to search for it since it's an Omni Negate, but only if you could guarantee that you could get your Starry Dragon onto the field in the first place. Now that it's unlimited though, you can play more copies of it, meaning that you can be more likely to have it if you search for something else to actually summon the Starry Dragon. Here I'm playing 3 copies of it so that I can open it more often, and so that my searches can be used for the continuous trap or the continuous spell. The continuous spell is there mostly as a way to search for the Starry Dragon if you don't have it in hand, and it itself is searchable, but once you've gotten Starry Dragon into rotation, you don't really need more of it that much, whereas the continuous trap is important to have, enough that I've got a second copy in here to search if the first one is removed. The deck is kind of complicated to play though, so if you are looking for an updated guide video on this deck, be sure to let us know and we might be able to get that done for you. Tachyon's got their Galactic Spiral Dragon Unlimited, meaning that they are allowed to play limited 3 back row again. So here is a sample deck list that is basically just the way Tachyons have been playing under the new skill hit, but with Crackdown in it. To be honest, I don't think that this buff is going to make a huge difference since the skill nerf was just so heavy that this deck really can't go back to being very good without more help. I did say Digital Bugs got buffed, but that wasn't really true. It's just that their boss monster was limited to 2 because of it being used in rank 6 decks back in the day as a non-target quick effect pop. The thing is though, this card doesn't work against Link monsters since it destroys the opponent's monster with the highest defense, and Link monsters don't have defense value. I really think that this was taken off the ban list because it really has no place being there. The card isn't even good anymore, to be honest, sadly. I do really miss Rhinoceros, but I don't think I'm ever going to want to play him again. Magistus itself hadn't actually been impacted by the nerfs to its cards, so if you're looking for a deck list, here it is. It doesn't play any differently and no new cards have come to make the pure deck any better. The main thing is that the Magistus engine can now be used generically again in decks with limited cards, so Mech Knights, BLS, and Odd Eyes might all be playing Endymion again for a Swiss Army effect of getting a draw, a back row pop, or a monster negation to let the rest of your plays go through smoothly. DDDs finally have everything off of the ban list so you can play the deck at full power. Technically better than it's ever been because the deck didn't have a legitimate turn 1 back in the day. I know people cope on drawing 3 cards from Giant Trainer, but using 3 cards to draw 3 cards, hoping to draw one of the 3 Book of Moon in your deck is not a good enough turn 1 play. Now we got legitimate turn 1 options. Belgrand and Xenophon are both pretty nice to summon turn 1 in this format, and this deck is still really nice at going second since so many of its plays are either awkward to interact with or are protected by the combo itself. That said, I don't think this deck's going to be all that competitive since it doesn't put up a threatening enough board going first, even though it does have good going first options now. Shaddolls haven't had any card changes, however they did have a skill change, and that skill change is honestly kinda amazing. First of all, the skill doesn't stop you from special summoning anything. It only makes it so that your main deck can only be Shaddoll monsters and spellcasters, so if you could find a spellcaster deck that would work well alongside the Shaddolls, then you are allowed to mix them. But this also means that you can't play Armageddon Knight anymore if you were playing that version, but most people were playing the Magistus version anyway. Secondly, the part of the skill that let you shuffle Shaddoll monsters from Grave or Banish pile back into the deck now lets you shuffle any Shaddoll card from Grave or Banish pile back into the deck, so you can recycle the Shaddoll traps after using them too. Lastly, the effect at the start of the duel that puts Winder into your extra deck and Shaddoll Fusion and Schism into your main deck has actually been buffed a bit. Before that happens, it takes 2 Shaddoll traps from your deck at random and puts them into the grave. The only Shaddoll trap this can really be referring to is Reshaddoll Incarnation, since it's the only one with a grave effect, so you play at least 2 copies of it and the skill will send them both to grave. This allows the deck to be more aggressive than it was before. You don't have to use your your effects to send them to the grave, since they will already be there. So you could instead send other cards with your effects, and you won't have to choose between anything, since you'll consistently be able to send whatever you want. You can send the Schism, but still have the quick effect flip summon from the Incarnation. You could send Wendy to summon a flip monster from the deck and immediately flip that monster up with Incarnation for its effect, and still have another Incarnation engraved to use as an interruption. And best of all, the fact that it sends 2 means that if the opponent has DD Crow, they can't completely screw you over. This is how I'm thinking the deck might be beginning to look with the added speed the deck is going to have, but I don't think this is going to be the final version of the deck, so I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody cooks up. I low-key hope we get Invoke support, but I might be asking for too much. I wish that Konami would do banlist updates like this more often, to be honest. I really think a lot of the time in Duel Links, banlists aren't even needed for the format to be healthy, since the format is usually pretty good anyway with rare exceptions. Don't take any of the deck lists in this video as the end all or be all. After all, these decks just got buffed, so there may be things I haven't thought of, there may be more testing needed for all of these deck types, so just take these deck lists as just a starting point for how I think the decks may be looking moving forward. But yeah guys, if you like the video, then slap like now, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell to get notified every time we make a new video. Have yourselves a good one guys, and I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the weatherman. I ain't asking to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.